Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. So today I wanted to make a head-to-head comparison video using the all-new 2023 Mazda CX-50. This is the turbo with the Premium Plus package, and we're going to compare it to the 2023 Volkswagen Tiguan SEL with the R-Line package. Both of these are the top trim level for each SUV, and they also have a very similar MSRP. So we're going to take a look at the exteriors, the interiors, all of the technology and features that are available for both of these models, get them out on the road, and really see the main differences and some of the similarities between both of these SUVs. So we'll start off with the power plants for this Mazda. This has a 2.5 liter turbocharged inline 4-cylinder. It's paired to a 6-speed automatic transmission and pumps out 227 horsepower, 310 pound-feet of torque. That power is sent through the all-wheel drive system and can propel this from 0 to 60 in 6.6 seconds. And for the Tiguan, this has a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission. It pumps out 184 horsepower, 221 pound-feet of torque. That power is sent through the 4-motion all-wheel drive system, and it can propel this from 0 to 60 in around 9 seconds. As far as the fuel capacity goes, both of these actually have a 15.9 gallon fuel tank. You'll expect to see around 23 miles per gallon in the city and 29 out on the highway for the Mazda. For the Volkswagen, you're looking at 21 and 28 respectively. And then the Mazda has a wheelbase of 110.8 inches. Its overall length is 185.8. It has a width of 75.6, a height of 63.9, and its ground clearance measures in at 8.6 inches. This has a wheelbase of 109.9 inches. Its overall length is 186.1. It has a width of 72.4, a height of 66.5 inches, and its ground clearance measures in at 7.6 inches. As we move on to the exterior styling now for both of these SUVs, starting off with the Mazda, you will notice that this has a very distinctive front end with its grille design. So this lower surround actually goes into the headlight housing, where you can see a bit of a tunnel going back to the headlight housings themselves. So those are sunken in, and we have some bodywork just above that, which gives it a very cool look. Massive grille with plenty of cutouts. There's a camera, parking sensors. The turn signals are actually mounted in the lower section, so very different from the Volkswagen. This has a sensor up front for the adaptive cruise, and then some cutouts in both sections there. Very nice lines coming down the hood. And when you compare this to the Tiguan, you will see that the grille is much different in the design. It flows much nicer into the headlight housings there, where you can see all the trim accents running through that grille. We have the forward sensor as well as that forward camera. Plenty of cutouts in the lower section, parking sensors, very similar technology features, but a much different design. A lot more chrome for this model, but of course that is just for the trim level itself. And then some nice lines that run down the hood. And then for the side, this has a set of 20-inch wheels. We have some plastic for the fender arches and the lower side skirt there. Power folding side mirrors with the turn signal and the camera system, of course. There's also a full moonroof. And then nothing too aggressive for the side design. Everything flows very nicely. We have some curves here and there. There's also some indentions in the top of the fender arches, which just add to the depth for this side design. And then there is some chrome in that back section for the windows. For the side design on the Tiguan, you can see it's a little bit more rounded off, but they do have some similarities to them. For this model, you will see a lot more chrome. We have the two-tone for the wheels, so of course just a little bit different of a design. There's a line that runs right through the line of the door handles there. It has a full panoramic sunroof, and I think it has some good proportions to it. And then for the rear, you can see it has a similar design. We have the spoiler, the wiper blade, LEDs, of course, power liftgate, camera, sensors. However, this has a towing capacity right around 3,500 pounds, so pretty much double the Volkswagen, which is interesting to note. For the rear end, it has that swooping design to it with that steeply raked rear glass. We have all the tech features, backup camera, sensors, and then the gloss black in that lower section there just ties in nicely with the front end design. And then as we move on to the cargo space, I can use the button on the key fob, and you will see there's a lot of storage. You can place a lot of items in the back. There's some storage cubbies on both sides, and then the spare tire is easily accessible by flipping up both of these panels. You have a little bit more interior storage, and you can even fold down the back seats just by pulling on these tabs to give you that much more interior space. And then of course we do have the buttons up top that you can control that liftgate with. This also has a remote start, so you can use that on the key fob to of course start that up. And then we do have the power liftgate, which will open up to give you a lot of space for this two-row vehicle. You can see there's storage pockets on both sides. This has a spare tire underneath. You can use that for a little bit more hidden storage. We have the cover that you can put in place as well, and you can even fold down the back seats just by pulling on those tabs on both sides. So they will lock into place, and that gives you an ample amount of space. For the size of this vehicle, you have a lot of storage. And then of course you can use the button up top to close that up. For the rear door panel, not a whole lot going on. We do have the Bose audio, a little bit of storage, and then the release and the grab handle there. And for the interior, beautiful leather seats. These are heated rear seats with all of the orange stitching. Plenty of space for my feet and my legs at 5'10". There's climate adjustments, some auxiliaries, even a storage bin over on that passenger side. And as far as headroom goes, I have around an inch or so above my head. These seats are fixed too, so they do not recline. You have this position here. They're slightly angled backwards, so that way they are comfortable to sit in. You will see the armrest right in the middle along with two cup holders, and then we will take a look at visibility. Very similar design in that pillar there, but still easy to see all around. As we move on to the back seats for the Tiguan, you will see a nice door panel with all the leather and stitching. There's even some insulation in all of the storage bins for the door panels just to make it a little bit less noisy. I think that is a really nice feature. There's a little bit of storage space too. And then we have the beautiful interior. These seats do recline, which is a plus. You can see the difference there between upright and all the way back. And then there's plenty of room for my feet at 5'10". Definitely have plenty of space. There's also air vents and some auxiliaries. I have about 2 or 3 inches above my head, so it's fairly roomy in the back. We have the armrest, cup holders. You can even fold down this middle seat individually. So that just makes it a little bit more practical. And then as far as visibility goes, you can see that glass on both sides of the pillar. So it's pretty open feeling. For the driver door panel, you can see the mirror adjustments, all the window controls, lock and unlock. And then we have the same seat that you saw for the rear. They are power adjusting and they have memory seating adjustments. Those are located to the left of the steering wheel. And then back to the Tiguan, you'll see the door panel was just like you saw earlier for the rear. We have a similar design for these seats, which are heated and ventilated. They're power adjusting with all the memory seating adjustments. You'll see the gauge cluster has a fairly simple setup with the tach, miles per hour, engine temperature, and fuel gauge. And then with some of the controls on the steering wheel, you can use info here to go through a few more icons within that center screen. So you don't have a lot to go through, but you have the important info that you need to look at. This has volume, tuning adjustments, Bluetooth and voice commands, and then all of the cruise and adaptive cruise control settings. You'll see engine temperature, fuel level, and right in the middle, you can go through a lot of information. You can also go through some other information like navigation, audio. You have your phone. We have the engine start-stop feature, as well as driving data that you just saw. And then we can even change this to where now you can pull up the tach and the miles per hour, still being able to go through that information within the screen. And then we have a lot of controls that have that haptic feedback to them. So they're not actual physical buttons. You just have to push on basically this screen in a sense to go through all this info. So we have cruise, adaptive cruise, lane keeping assist, and then all of these controls including tuning, heated steering wheel, Bluetooth, and voice commands. And then we have a lot more tech over on this left side as far as your parking sensors go, traction control, the engine start-stop, even blind spot monitoring. And then we can take a look at the 360 camera system where you have a few different angles that you can monitor just by pushing on that view button. So it's very nice to be able to see that. We have the head-up display as well. For the rest of the interior on this Tiguan, you will see that we have a little bit of storage over on this left side with the headlight adjustments, one air vent, No heads-up display for this model. However, it does have a little bit of storage space up in the dash. And then for all of the adjustments just underneath the infotainment system, for the Mazda, we have all the climate adjustments, heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel. Everything is easy to use. There's not a clutter of buttons. It's very nice to see it within this oval shaped design. A little bit of storage underneath that with 2 cup holders. And then we have the e-brake. We have all the controls for that infotainment system. This is not a touchscreen system, so unlike in the Volkswagen, you can only use all the controls located down below, and with the simplicity of it, you can quickly go through all this information. And then for the infotainment system, not a whole lot of info, but it's very nice to be able to go through. So we have the radio and media, you have voice commands along with phone. You can go into vehicle to further go through a little bit more tech here. If I go into selection, you can actually adjust what you would like to see as standard for the gauge cluster there. We have some data information that you can go through, vehicle status, have all the climate adjustments just underneath that with the heated and ventilated seats. But we have all the wireless charging, all the auxiliaries there for extra charging if you need it. And then we have the different driving modes that you can go through as well. So we do have an off-road setting, and then there's also eco and normal along with a sport mode or a snow mode. This even gets parallel parking along with the parking sensors you can turn on and off. We have the engine start stop feature too. The glove box is also different. We have a split style to it, so you do have to open them individually in order to gain access. We have a wireless charging pad just in front of that, and then the glove box has plenty of space for all of that information. Now this has a full moonroof, just like you saw in the Tiguan. However, there is a sunglass holder up top, which is an added convenient touch to see. And then we have all the rest of the controls up top. Now there's 2 cup holders in the middle, a little bit of storage where you could place your phone if you need to. And then in the center armrest, you have a decent amount of space where you could place some extra items along with the glove box. And then you can see some nice trim just above that. And like I mentioned earlier, this does have a full panoramic sunroof. It goes all the way to the back headrest there and provides you with the shade that you need when you have that closed. The controls for that are right in the middle along with the sunroof adjustments, and then the dome lights are on both sides. So as we move on to the test drives for both the CX-50 and the Volkswagen Tiguan, we'll start off in the Mazda here. Over the week that I've been behind the wheel of this SUV, I do like it. It is very simple, especially when you compare it to other brands and especially the Tiguan. This is more of a vehicle that has the basic technology that you want and nothing else. So we have the adaptive cruise, lane keeping assist, heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, navigation, but that's pretty much it. Everything else is very, very basic. As you've been able to tell, no touch screen, not a whole lot of buttons in the middle there. So I don't want to say anything negative about it because it doesn't have other items. I will say though, for less money for the Tiguan, as you can see now behind the driver's seat for the Tiguan, we have a little bit nicer of an infotainment system, I will say. It's touchscreen. It has a lot more controls rather than using the dials located down below. So while we're behind the wheel of the Tiguan now, it's just as nice of a vehicle to drive. They both seem to be very comfortable, quiet. It's more of a economical style SUV, if you want to call it that. They're not performance oriented. It's just a very nice vehicle that has plenty of space, and it's going to get you from point A to point B. So as we switch back to the Mazda now, it's very comfortable, like I said, quiet. If we pop it over into the manual setting now, we can go down to a second gear. We'll give it a little bit of gas here. And it gets up and moves. It's nice that we have the paddles. They're pretty responsive, which is nice if you need to use them. And we have a few different driving modes. It's interesting to see that we do have an off-road setting. Now I did put it in the off-road setting. I took it down a gravel road. It's probably just going to modulate the throttle response. There's really nothing else for the off-road setting to do. Now as we jump back to the wheel, behind the wheel now for the Volkswagen Tiguan, let's give it another acceleration here. And from second gear, here we go. And it seems a lot more peppy feeling. They both definitely have a good get up and go. Again, not performance oriented, but enough power, an adequate amount of power to get them up and moving. And behind the wheel of the Tiguan, this has a few different driving modes as well, with the all-wheel drive system, just like in the Mazda. But aside from that, backseat room is very nice. We have plenty of storage in both of these SUVs. They're very, very similar in price. Personally, I think I would go with the Volkswagen just because of the touchscreen system alone. I'm not a huge fan of a screen without touchscreen. I feel like that should almost be standard today. But not to say the Mazda is not as nice, just personally, I need that touchscreen system. It makes it so much easier to go through some of that info versus trying to guess with the dial here. But I think that's going to wrap it up for the comparison between the Volkswagen Tiguan and the Mazda CX-50. Comment down below, of these two SUVs, which one would you pick? And is there another SUV that I missed for around the $40,000 mark that you would pick over both of these options? Let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's comparison, give it a huge thumbs up. Consider smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. And I will see you all in the next video.